Hello, everyone. Welcome to another adventure in real estate. We talk about just about everything that has to do with the real estate market. We've talked about days on market. We've talked about inventory. We've looked at the number of homes sold. We've done a lot of things here, and I'm I'm reminiscing thinking about like reasons and think about what kind of is going on in the market and what's we take for granted the everyday sort of typical, and you guys out there maybe don't necessarily see that as much. And so we've been talking about inventory. Inventory is growing, and we're seeing days on market creep up a little bit as well here as we move along. One of the things that I saw this recently and I thought I'd share, but we've got homes that are staying on the market longer, been on the market for, you know, 60 days, if you will. What we're seeing, property goes under contract, uh, falls through for whatever reason. And here's a little slide that talks about that. And, when we look at the number of reasons, or we look at the reasons why a property comes back on the market after it's gone under contract, there's probably no surprise. But for you guys, you know, number one reason is home inspections. We get into the home, and we get a licensed professional to come in there and basically tear it apart, if you will, as best they can, without physically doing that. And, we find some things that maybe we just felt like, well, that's just a little bit more than maybe what we wanted, or maybe it was a lot more than what we were really wanting to take on. And so that's a big part of it. And I think as we move along here, I think as this market, the inventory continues to grow, the leverage that some of these sellers have had in a seller's market, where we just had such an extremely low inventory, I think that's changing a little bit. We're seeing things begin to move, where maybe buyers have a little more leverage, a little bit more room to negotiate and work through some of these problems, like home inspection. But interesting there. And so as we look at the list a little bit further, we're seeing, one of the things that showed up there a little higher maybe than what I expected was that, buyers are unable to sell their home. One of the things that we're seeing here are contracts that are contingent on the buyer being able to sell their home. And so the inability for that buyer to move that in a short period of time, then, as the way the contract's written, if we can't get something done within a certain period of time, then seller has the opportunity to opt out and go back onto the market. And so we're seeing that is creeping up. There's a lot more homes today that go under contract that are contingent on the sale of that buyer's home. And sometimes those things, don't always line up or work out like we had hoped. And we're certainly seeing more contracts come in that are contingent on the sale of another home. So that's something that's creeped up there in the last 6 months, and something just to kind of keep in mind, especially if you're a seller in this market. Don't be surprised if you see an offer come in, maybe with the contingency of selling another home. But here's all kinds of, I guess, talk about financing. We talk about all the traditional things that we think about in the reason a home might come back on the market, contract might fall through. These are just some snapshots there of what looks like whether things are shaking out at this point in time. But again, from a seller's perspective, guys, it's a great time to be selling your home. Buyers, just be ready. If you're interested in purchasing a home, let's have our act together and be ready to go when the home comes onto the market. We're going to let that wrap things up for this adventure in real estate. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, take care, everybody.